Hey everybody, welcome to session 14. We're down to our final two sessions and so glad you've kept up with this journey and have made it this far. And hopefully some of the adjustments you've made with the time management session and that you stuck to your goal and what was clear to you. You've created your mission statement and ready to move forward with that. And really those things can have a huge impact on your life. So we're going to go right into the skill. This week we're going to talk about dealing with stress and also our mental health and just keeping our brains sharp. And so I'll put the skill video on and catch up with you here in just 1 minute.
Hey everyone, it's Mike again. Hopefully this journey is going amazingly well for you and you're finding huge benefits. A lot of people in these 15 weeks have found a great deal of recovery and felt like they were back to their old selves. Other people, it may take a month or two afterwards to continue with the skills and keep up with everything they're learning and continue to retrain their brain to a whole new set of thinking and lifestyle and diet, exercise, just so much that we've been talking about and doing that eventually you'll find what works for you. So this next one, this comes from my background. I've worked a lot with kids as a counselor, and I've worked a lot with kids that have mood disorders and just really have a hard time regulating their emotions. So sometimes they get super angry and they'll start flailing around, yelling and screaming. And one of the techniques that I've learned along the way is, if a kid's super upset and they're kind of getting out of control, I would put my hands on their wrists as they're kind of flailing around, and you don't hold them, you don't stop them, but you actually go faster than they are, right? So when you start going faster, instead of in their rhythm of flailing, they're now in your rhythm because you're going with them, you're going faster, and as you kind of talk in a calm voice and give them some encouragement, some kindness, you start to slow down that rhythm. And because they're in your rhythm when you were going faster than they were, they're kind of in tune with you, and you can kind of bring that down slower and slower and slower till it's peaceful. So if you find yourself, let's, I'll just take the camera and I'll put it down on my feet. So let me, I don't know if I can switch. Let me go back to this. I'll just back up as far as I can, and I can't see the bottom of my phone, so hopefully you're able to see this. But if you find yourself, if you're a nervous person and a toe tapper, and even if you're not, even if you're calm, one of the things you can do is, if you're bouncing, you're nervous, start to bounce faster, right? Get yourself in a new rhythm that you're in control of, and then slowly slow that down, slow it down, slow it down, slow it down, and bring it to a stop. And again, even if you're not a nervous person, but show it that way. If you're anxious, just go ahead and start your legs going, bring it to a decent speed, knowing that you're in control, positive thinking, better believable thoughts, and nice and slow it down, slow it down, slow it down, and bring it to a stop. So go for it. That's, again, not really a technique that's mentioned out there because it's kind of something I adapted, but a lot of people found a huge benefit from it. So give it a shot.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of the nervous people that have like the shaky legs really like this technique. And it's just kind of, instead of trying to just stop them out of the blue, it's kind of like getting into that faster rhythm. So you can slow it down, calm it down, and get it back under your control. So again, today we're looking at stress. So what this program is based on is helping you avoid chronic stress, which never goes away, and stopping stress from turning into anxiety, which is just that low level of dread and I can't manage my day. And, just going back to the very first week when we defined anxiety as the uneasiness of mind, and, stopping that from impacting your life and like just keeping you from doing the things that you want to do, holding you back from being who God designed you to be, and just overcoming all the negative thoughts, all the symptoms, and all the junk that comes along with that. But today we're looking at stress, and number one is everybody has stress in their lives. So I'm still have not met the person who says I'm stress free and like nothing bothers me, nothing ever impacts me, and life is just perfect for me. So the American Psychological Association, every year they ask Americans the question on a scale 1 to 10, how stressed are you? So think of that in your own mind. First of all, what would you like give yourself? And I'm hoping like that number at this point in the program is much lower than you would have given, say, 6 months ago or 3 months ago, whenever you started this. But think about like what number would you give yourself? And then I want you to think like, what number would the average American say? So in this assessment, they've done it every year for the past 10 years, and the average score ranged between 4.9 and 6.1. So kind of if you average them, the average would be 5.5. So most Americans would say on a scale 1 to 10, how bad am I stressed or how stressed out am I? I'm a 5.5. So again, that's taken into consideration people who are managing their stress well, and people whose stress is off the chart. And so if you're thinking for yourself and you gave yourself a number below 5.5, like you're winning. Like you're doing awesome. You're better than half the Americans out there, and only 35% of Americans say that they do a good job managing their stress. So 2 out of every 3 people that you meet on the street doesn't have the skills that you've learned over the last several months. And again, a lot of this is on you. You've got the skills, you got the way to manage, you have the ability to be that 1 out of every 3 people that says like, yeah, I'm stressed too, but let me tell you some of the stuff I learned. I got this breathing technique, I've got this tapping, I've got the emotional freedom technique. I've got better but believable thoughts. I've learned to just float with my anxiety and not panic about my panic. I've learned to manage my anger, to manage my time, and man, it's just changed my life. So keep up with these skills, because it will put you in like the top 1 out of every 3 people for sure. But with that stress, you see the subpoints, keeping it under control is the key. There's no way to completely avoid it. So stress handled poorly is when it turns into anxiety. And all the skills I've given you and all the stuff that you've done has been helping you to not handle it poorly and handle it in a more productive and efficient way. So stress handled well gives you positive energy. So stress isn't even a bad thing. If I'm a Major League Baseball player and I'm going up to the plate to bat, I don't want zero stress. But I also don't want like my stress to be off the charts where I can't focus and concentrate. So it's finding, and professional sports athletes have found like how to balance the good amount of stress. And they'll say like, I don't want no stress, but I don't want off the charts stress either. All right, so number 2, there's signs that we need to be aware of that let us know when we're stressed. So, as you look at that, a lot of these are relating back to the first week when you were circling symptoms and things that you had. But when you start to feel these things, know that these are normal and you have the ability to control them and stop them from controlling you. I really like, if you look at the very bottom of the page, there's that quote, when you can't control what's happening, challenge yourself to control the ways you're responding to what's happening. So there's things in life that get thrown at you that's out of your control, and so you can't control the situation, but you can always control the way that you respond to that situation. So one of the great ways to deal with stress is to start practice underreacting. People with anxiety tend to overreact to everything, so this is a great way to practice underreacting. And I remember one of the kids that I grew up with on my street, like we were always out playing ball and doing things, and this kid had the mom that was the yeller, that, she had one voice and it was loud. And, so my friend was always just, even if he wasn't really in trouble, like mom was just loud. And it always just seemed like he was being yelled at constantly because mom was so loud. And I remember one day his mom was sitting out in the porch and we were outside playing ball, and the ball rolls out in the road and her son starts to run after the ball. And she yells, "Stop," because a car is coming down the street. Now, in my friend's mind, she's always loud. So it's gotten to be like just normal talk, normal behavior. And so now she's screaming stop, and she has reason to scream stop because the car's coming. And my friend, it didn't even faze him because mom is always yelling. Like, this is nothing unique, nothing different. So he runs out into the street. Thankfully, the car saw the ball, saw the kid, hit the brakes, and like nothing bad had happened. But that was kind of like an eye-opening moment for her. Like, my screaming should only be used in an emergency. And I could say, like, even with my own child, like I could probably like count on one hand like the number of times like I really like raise my voice with him, because that's safe for when he's going to touch a hot stove, when he's going to run out into traffic. And so I know my son, like right away, like if I raise my voice, like he's going to stop because he's going to know that's not the normal thing. And so part of that, if you're that loud person, if you're that yeller, if you're the one that's always overreacting to everything, like this is a great chance for you to start practicing underreacting, and really focusing on things that are important. And I remember the story of there was a fighter pilot that it would have been, I think, in the Gulf War, that he was going on these different missions. And the story is told. I used to work at a place called the Leadership Center. So this was like one of the commanding officers that shared this story. And so he's saying like this fighter pilot that he had a recording of his 4-year-old daughter on some of the commands that came through that airplane. Because when you get into that battle and when you're in the air, like there's messages blaring over the speakers nonstop. And it's, it's saying people's altitudes, it's saying like different directions in airspace, and they're all important, but they're not emergencies. And there's just nonstop chatter. But some of the messages that this guy's daughter had recorded was, "Daddy, your engine's on fire. Daddy, you've just been hit." So if there was something that was an actual emergency that would happen, his daughter's voice was recorded within the airplane. And that was the one thing that pilot could hear and understand above all the other noise that was going on. And, so start thinking like, what are the things in your life that can drown out all the noise of busyness, of anxiety producing things, and things you're reading in the news, on social media, and those sort of things, and just listen for that small voice of your child, the voice of God, and those sort of things. That like all these other things are chitter chatter, and I'm not going to allow that to stress me out as much anymore. But also being open to, when there is something important, like here's the voice that I really need to listen to. All right. So first of all, looking at, what are the benefits of overreacting? What have you been getting out of it other than increased blood pressure and frustration? What skills can you use to keep yourself from overreacting? And a lot of the times it's like moving to the planning stage, and how do we hit the reset button? How do we do a redo? And just like my friend's mom, who was a constant yeller, was like, okay, what do I need to do to like hit the reset button on this? Because I have to find a way that when there is an emergency, that I can keep my son safe. And then number 4 is to make a plan for your stress. Again, you've already been working on that planning stage with all the worries that you've been having. And, so again, it's just looking at each day. So there's some sub points there. Having a plan will reduce your stress. again, if Christmas is coming up and you're going to be super busy, like just planning, how am I going to delegate some of these things? I think we talked last session about like having lunches prepared in advance. You can just jump in the refrigerator and get it. Just making plans for those stressful times and those stressful days. So having a plan will turn that stress into positive energy, just like the major league athletes like to use. All right, so use this during your worry time. Again, you've changed it into a planning time, and it's just starting to look at, okay, what's tomorrow? What do I got on my schedule tomorrow? And what do I need to plan with that? And I love the idea you come up with a 24-hour plan, right? If you try and plan too far out, it's too overwhelming, it's too stressful. So you can look at like, tomorrow, here's the 3 work meetings I have. This is the one thing that I'm going to do for myself to enjoy my time and myself. Here's how I'm going to spend time with my spouse, spend a little bit of time with my kids, and you just plan for the next day. And knowing that each day, if you just set those goals and plan for the next 24 hours, can be a healthy thing. Now obviously some things, vacations and that kind of thing, you need to look long term, but hopefully those are all positive things and things that you enjoy, and it's not stressful to plan a vacation or stressful to find a nice hotel or resort or somewhere to take your family. And always make your plans better but believable, right? So don't, if you have horrible staff meetings at work, don't sit there and say, man, like tomorrow's going to be an awesome staff meeting. Like I just not, if it's not believable, it's not doing it. But you can come up with, hey, you know what, tomorrow during staff meeting, I'm going to bring up this topic that will be interesting to people, and it may like lead to some engaging conversation. So that's what you're doing with this planning time. So on page 46, you can see there's a place to say, hey, here's something that's stressing me out. And again, during your planning time, or right now as we're doing this session, just say, hey, here's what my plan is to make my stress less in this area, right? And again, just like we did with time management, you kind of got the whole picture, and here's all the different things that you could do to adjust your time in a more productive, positive way. It's the same thing with the things that are stressing you out. Maybe there's a big list, but you're only going to focus on one and say, this is how I'm going to get this stress under control. And it may be using those skills, going back to the music, going back to the mindfulness, maybe like delegating things, planning things out, handing things off. But you say, right now, like hopefully all of you are saying your stress level is below a 5. But there's things in your life, I'm sure, that are higher than 5 and things that are lower. So if you say that this certain area, dealing with my in-laws, this area is a 7 out of 10 when it happens. Like just making a plan for that, and hey, how can I get my spouse involved? How can I turn some of these conversations more positive and focus on the positive things and set the tone for some of these conversations, and just making plans so the next time you visit the in-laws or talk to the in-laws, that maybe can go from a 7 to a 4, and trying to push all these areas of stress under the 5. And I'm just writing that in my notebook as well. So, that was just a new thought that came, that as I work with people, hopefully I'll be able to use with them in the future. And I also like, during your worry time, there's something called the Socratic method as a way of processing your stress. So there's a group of questions there that when you find yourself stressed, that you can ask yourself. So for example, let's say I got a job interview coming up and I'm really stressed about that. I feel like it's turning into anxiety and I can't really control it anymore. I can go and ask these questions. So question number 1, when will my worry no longer matter? So let's say, hey, I got a job interview Friday at 1 o'clock. Let's see. So this worry won't matter anymore Friday at 3 o'clock because the job interview will be over. Then question 1, if it won't matter then, so if it's not going to matter Friday at 3 o'clock, why does it need to matter now? And, when you really think about that question and like dig into it, like, what if a couple days from now, it's not worth worrying about, why should I worry about it now? And the next one, how often do things turn out better than I expect? So I would say when I went through anxiety probably 99%, because I was definitely the Debbie Downer, and like everything's going to be bad, everything's negative. But now that I'm a more positive person, like, and see the bright side of things and look more at the successes, and I have a much more realistic view. And so that number is probably like gone down because I am more positive, and a lot of times I expect things to go wonderful, and maybe they don't, and it's okay. I can process those in a healthy way. I can learn from them. I can grow from them, and I never look back and say, man, I wish I would have been more negative and set my goal a little lower on this, because then I would have been successful. I'm okay with failure and doing my best and learning from it and growing from it. And but the next question, what is the likelihood that I'm going to make a mistake in a job interview? I'm guessing you probably won't walk out and say, man, I nailed every question and said everything just perfectly the way I wanted. Most of the time there's going to be little things in there, but ultimately, hopefully you'll say, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to prepare for it and do what I can. And then, the last question, if I make a mistake, what's the worst thing that could happen? Then I don't get that job, and maybe God has something better in store for me, and I'll get some interview skills and be ready for the next job interview. So it's really not that bad. It's not worth really being stressed over. Again, use it during your stress time. Or your worry time. So, pulling in some of these things that are stressing you out. So again, during that worry time, if I'm stressed about this job interview, you can see up top then what's my plan to help that. So something like, I'll have somebody to practice with. I'll learn all about the company. So right now I'm working for Butler County Community College. That's where I teach psychology and oversee a lot of our student services and help students in a multitude of ways. But I remember like when I prepared for that interview and that job, and a lot of people applied for it, one of the things I did was learn everything I could about the college. And it came up in the interview, what do you think of our mission statement? And I was the only candidate, I think, that actually knew what the mission statement was and was able to relate what I can do that would help them fulfill that mission. And so, you're going to learn about the company. You're going to use skills to be calm and confident throughout it. And you're going to do your best and ultimately trust God that, in his wisdom, ultimately it's going to work out the way that he desires and the way he wants, which is the best way for it to work out anyway. All right. And then finally, number 6 is to find ways to challenge your mind. So you never want to just give up on learning, growing. Your brain needs exercise just like your body. So find challenging activities. So puzzles, trivia, mind games, stimulating conversations, real people and paper and pencils, better than electronics. So instead of playing video games and games on your phone, actually having some challenging mind games, maybe get the newspaper, do the crossword puzzles, those sort of things. Now this is electronic, but I just came across, there was a new app, it's called Headway. So you can see on my phone, it looks like a little ladder there, that blue one. I know that doesn't come out real clear, but basically it has all the best-selling books. So about being effective leaders, it even has Christian books, the 5 love languages. It has things about building your business. It has things about managing stress. And so, if it's been a bestseller, chances are it's on there. And what they do is they break those books up into a 15-minute summary. So instead of reading the entire book, it gives you a real short summary of every chapter and an overall summary. And, if there's key points and stuff that you want to save into a save list, you can do that. And so just a great way to stay on top of some of the best books that people are using and growing from out there, and not needing to spend hours and hours reading those books, but just keep picking up some of those key points. All right. So again, just ways, everybody's different in what you do, but again, don't just go to work all day, come home, sit on the couch, watch TV, and not use your mind. You need to exercise that as well. So your homework this week: spend a week underreacting, and again, just take notes. It's a behavioral experiment. just see how that turns out. So when you get stressed this week, make a plan. And, you know, what are you going to do to get that stress under a 5 for yourself? So you're going to use your skills, your breathing, your grounding, mindfulness, everything you can, keep that stress down. And then if you have a worry, come back, use that Socratic method. And as always, use all the skills that you've learned up to this point. And, you know, hopefully it's making a huge impact on your life, and that you would see this program as something that has changed you in a powerful way. And that, again, that was my goal in creating this. And again, email anytime, reach out anytime. Would love to just hear how you're doing. And so can't wait to see you for the last session.